In today's face-off, what does the president need to do to sell Americans on escalating a war that's lasted already 8 years with no end in sight if you look at some of the goals? Here to face off are Democratic strategist Chris Kofinas, who served as communications director for the John Edwards campaign. Also with us, Charles Moran, a Republican strategist and spokesperson for the Log Cabin Republicans. Thank you guys for joining us. Chris, I'll start off with you. What does he need to say? I mean, we were here with Joan Walsh earlier today, and she's obviously a progressive, and she said, listen, I'm willing to listen, but even with hesitance, when you look at the number of troops that are going there.
Well, I think he needs to lay out a very clear strategy, what the goals are in terms of the number of troops that are going to go in there, what the deadlines or the objectives are. I think he's going to be very strong in terms of the demands he's going to place on the Karzai government. And I think he's going to be very clear, what the overall strategic importance Afghanistan has for this country. I think we need to put this in some historical perspective. President Obama made it very clear during the campaign that this was a war that the previous administration dropped the ball on, that he was going to focus on. So there's no surprises there. It is a challenge. There's no question about it. But I think that is what the president is going to articulate today, what the challenges are and how he's going to go about to address them.
When he talks about the goals and the dropping of the ball by the previous administration, the goal was to go in there and get al-Qaeda, get Osama bin Laden and anyone else who was assisting. Now, 8 years later, can that still be the goal there? Or if he starts talking about nation building or infrastructure, might he lose the American public who, honestly, when you look at the expense of it, may not want that?
Well, in terms of the first goal, or the question of al-Qaeda, I mean, you mentioned earlier in the previous segment about just 100, some estimates of 100 al-Qaeda members. I don't think it's a question of just how many al-Qaeda members may be in Afghanistan, but what you would do, or what would happen rather, if Afghanistan becomes another failed state. In terms of the question of the Karzai government and nation building, listen, it's not the United States' responsibility to nation build, but we need to place clear demands and provide as much assistance possible so the Karzai government does basically nation build themselves. Right. That clearly didn't happen under the previous administration. I think the president's going to make it very clear how they're going to make that happen over the next coming years.
And Charles, I want to get you in. Obviously, after it was leaked that General McChrystal wanted more troops, you had a lot of Republicans, saying, yes, that's right, give him what he wants on the ground. He's got pretty close to what he asked for there. So does the president have the support of Republicans, or are they in line with the former vice president who says he appears weak even before hearing the speech?
Well, those are two completely different issues. The Republicans are supportive of the troop surge, as was demonstrated this morning by Michael Steele's comments and by a lot of other Republican leaders. But the problem is that he's too late. General McChrystal was asking for these troops a long time ago.
Is he 8 years too late? Is he 8 years too late, Charles? 8 years too
President Obama has only, I will give President Obama the credit where it's due. He's only been president since January. But in March, he knew that the commanders in the field were calling for more troops. So he's waited this enormous amount of time. I mean, General McChrystal gave him 12 months. Right. We're now 3 months into that, and it's going to take another 2 to 3 months to fully deploy.
And David asked earlier how much of this is about reflection.
He had the political capital.
Yeah, and let me ask you this, because David Schuster, my colleague here, he asked earlier how much of this speech can be about the past. With that said, can you tell us what the previous administration accomplished in Afghanistan?
Well, the problem that we've got in Afghanistan now is we've got a fire alarm going off in Burbank.
And perhaps good timing for you, Charles. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. Chris, thank you as well. I've never had an interview interrupted by a fire alarm, but hey, that's life, David Schuster.
Yeah, and Tim, and I hope nobody pulled the alarm, but for whoever did, I guess the timing was perfect because we're just running up against the break. Fire alarm in Burbank. Okay.